Well, that's one of those sights you just have to stop and try to record to share with everybody when you see them, right? First light in the morning, a remote lake, a bit of a breeze, fog and mist and reflection, dead silence. We'll come up here in hopes to see some elk. None yet. Who knows, maybe something will run up behind me. It's the end of the day, I still got a little bit of light left, so you'll hang here and see if an elk will run out behind me or something. Well, I read From the People to the People. Conversations with Sabet is the title of this one. Hello Steve, I sent you one email a few months ago detailing some of the first interactions I had with the Sabet people. I described some relatively unremarkable things that I had experienced in the forest, but I have had some much more interesting interactions with these people recently. About 5 months ago, I went to explore a new park I had never been to before. While on that first hike, I sat down in a riverbed with a very steep bank on either side of me. While in this very vulnerable position, I began to feel the sensation of being watched. I've been suspicious of Sabet being in that area, but when I felt that sensation, I knew immediately they were around. I've been visiting that area frequently and have gained the trust of the Sabet there. Showing respect to these beings is absolutely crucial. If you show respect to these people, you'll be treated with respect in return. Their law seems to closely resemble parts of Hammurabi's code. The Sabet people believe strongly in the concept of eye for an eye, like in Hammurabi's code. The Sabet always know your intentions and treat in accordance with the intentions you have. After a few months of minor interactions with the Sabet, a female Sabet attempted to use mind speak with me. In the beginning, I could not clear my mind well enough to hear her well, but I have since learned the proper way to use mind speak. We have and continue to discuss many things. I'm going to write down some of the important things I've been told by her. Your mind creates thought energy. Your mind creates thought energy. Phones block this energy. When you are sitting still doing nothing, you tend to think more, which creates a lot of thought energy. When you're on a phone, your mind goes numb and you create minimal thought energy. Sabet believe that light itself is energy, not simply a byproduct of any other energy release. I was also told that Sabet are made of light. The Sabet I've been speaking to is not a physical being like most of the Sabet that are described in your channels. She calls these physical beings dirty Sabet because they have interbred with humans and are not anymore purely spiritual or non-physical. I continue to interact with and gain knowledge from Sabet groups that trust me. I'm willing to ask them any questions you may have if you would like me to. I realize the information I'm sharing may be hard to swallow, so I do not want to share my name to avoid any backlash. I have much more information that what I have shared in this email. I have much more information that what I have shared in this email, but do not write more of it simply because it would take too long. I appreciate the platform you've created with your channel. There's not a single person I can speak to about what I've experienced, so writing this and hopefully hearing it in one of your videos helps greatly. Sincerely, C. All right. Write more. You kidding? If you're interacting with some unknown beings, share more, okay? Without a doubt. You shouldn't even have to ask me if I want to hear more. Of course, everybody does. That's what we're here for. And if I had a question to ask them, I want to know, who the hell are we? What's our story? Where do we really come from? Where are we going? But not really where we're going. I think it's apparent where we're going, but honestly, I want to know, what is our true honest origins. What can we do? What can we normally, naturally do that we are not doing today? That would be my biggest questions if I could have them answered from anybody. I had to move the camera. I can't sit down and do this without camera because I don't have the screen with me. Because it came without batteries. The monitor screen that I can put on there that I can watch tells me the camera's still recording. And I can't keep getting up and walking over. The camera just shut off too quickly for me, so I'm going to stand up and read these emails. But in the meantime, make sure you email back what you know. Nobody has to ask me. If you want to hear more, just say so. We don't need that one. We need you to share it all. Share all the knowledge you have. Everybody wants to hear it. There's a shit pile of people here that want to know the truth. They're trying to put their personal puzzle pieces together correctly, and every little tidbit helps, all right? But what I would want to know is, for sure, is who the hell are we, and what is it that we used to be able to do naturally and can't anymore? I'd be really curious to know those answers to those questions myself. But thanks for that email again, and make sure you get it back in again. Get more back in again, all right? All right, so here's another one. It's titled Sasquatch near Hobart, Washington. Hi, Steve, long-time listener. It's okay to use my name. Ross Rockstad. Okay, Ross, thanks, man. My family and I had lived in a pretty remote area east of the small burg of Hobart, Washington for over 20 years. We have since retired and now live on Lake Roosevelt, a portion of the Columbia River northwest of Spokane, Washington. We had bought 6 acres of land back in the mid-'80s on the headwaters of the raging river near Seattle's watershed, a huge portion of land that is off limits to the public and as wild as it gets. There's a 5-mile section of county road that cuts through this dense wooded area, and is the only access to this area called Keriston. We moved there late 1990. I was 32 at the time and was into hiking, mountain biking, hunting, and fishing along with running. I never thought much of the times I experienced that dread feeling, but had on numerous occasions. I have many stories, but one in particular I'd like to share. One sunny summer, late afternoon, I was out for a run and decided to slip into the watershed and run on one of the many boundary roads. Jogging down the road, I looked off to my left and saw one of my neighbors who was out working on his new barn. He was much older and was the type with zero sense of humor. I don't like those people too much. I yelled at him and he gave me shit for being in the shed. While talking to him, I was looking through a stand of a few alder trees with a new 2x4 and plywood deck built 10 feet off the ground. "What is this?" I said, and continued saying, "Your kids are grown and you have no grandchildren yet." He replied, "You won't believe me, I'm not saying because you ridiculed me," while he walked over to me. Like you, Steve, I kept after him, while giving him plenty of respect. After promising him not to laugh, he said it was for taking pictures, and again said, "Don't laugh, I'll tell you the story." This guy was a man of few words, but he wanted to share. He told me to turn and look behind the tree. See the big old cedar stumps that are cut off 10 to 12 feet high off the ground? See the one with the huckleberry bush growing near the top? Yes, I said. Well, this last spring while building the barn, my son told my wife and I to look at the stump. A minute or two passed, and he told his son, "What about it?" "Keep watching," his son said. After a minute passed, the wind blew, and this 12-inch long mass of charcoal-colored hair lifted off what was thought to be an old dark gray cedar stump. Then they noticed one eye, half of its head, one shoulder, and long arm as it stood roughly 9 feet tall and 150 feet away from them. Like all of us here at the Sasquatch Roundtable, we know of this common sighting of a Sasquatch. It exposes half of its profile while standing behind a tree observing. He said his wife got her fill about 1 minute later and retreated to the house. The guys went back to work but kept an eye out, and about 30 minutes later it was gone. I told him I had hunted and shot deer up around here, and he said that if I had ever seen one, not to shoot it, and that I probably wouldn't make it out of the woods. Over the next few years, maybe once a week, I would see him and his wife at the Hobart store. When no one was around, I'd ask the latest info. Here's some of the key points. He befriended them, a family of 3, a big male, a smaller female, and 1 youngster. The large male was first to sneak up on him while he was outside working, doing something other than, sorry, one more time. The large male was first to sneak up on him while he was outside working, doing something other than cutting firewood. The male was 9 feet tall and massive, very intimidating. I would stay around 50 feet from him. It would stay around 50 feet from him. He said it's like they just appeared near him while outside. They are super quiet and masters of camouflage. You never talk to them of having a bad smell. They're very curious, yet very cautious. They'd be near him one moment, then be gone for no reason. Other times a car, though unseen, would drive by on the county road, or they would not move an inch. And they would not move an inch. It's got the sun setting in my eyeball here, you guys. And I'm tired. I'll get it. One night after dark, and after having some ice cream, he was rinsing out his bowl and looked up through the kitchen window, and the young one was standing not more than 4 feet away watching him. A few years later, he retired, sold their place, and moved to Lake Havasu, Arizona, locally known as the Lake Havasu. A day or two after they left, there was this god-awful screaming that went on for 2 days or more off and on. Many of the folks that lived in the area had heard it, will remember those days as a time to be indoors, even though it was nice and sunny summer weather. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for all you do. Ross rocks, Dad. Ross, that's another one. Another similar story. How many times have we heard people who have had regular interactions with these beings and kept it secret, right? Crazy. Ross, you got anything else for the round table of knowledge? Send it in, all right? If you come across anything you think will help anybody, send it in. My first Sabet visual is the title of this one. Hi, Steve. Yep. It is that crazy guy who talks about aliens and what they have told me. Here's a different one on the Sabet side of life. I was going to send this encounter experience, but my wife said I should. My wife and I live in the coastal foothills of Oregon, and the nearest town is Philomath. You'll have to check it out on a map. We're next door to Oregon State University in Corvallis. In fact, this university was in Philomath, the little town of philosophy and math. I've lived in this area for 55 years. I'm 67 years old. My grandparents raised 3 kids, one being my mom in Corvallis. Lots of history here at the Sabet, mostly in the Mary's Peak area. I'm not far from there at all. My actual first encounter experience was on the peak many years ago while hunting, and it was only a yell that went through my body. At the time, I had no idea what was making the yell screech a howl, but I knew I needed to leave, and I did. The last experience was a sighting. It was on my way to my favorite hiking spot at Fort Hoskins. This sighting was the last thing I expected. I was passing a turn-off road that goes into a small community of Wren, and as I was thinking, I wonder if that Sabet still lives around here. There have been several sightings in the community, and they all talk about the same being. Tall, slender, and black or dark brown from head to toe. You know, when more than one person sees the same thing, there's something to it. Anyway, I'm just thinking about this, and I'm coming down a 2-lane highway towards Mary's River, and I see this very tall, black from head to toe, 2-legged being run across the road in less than 3 steps. I counted 3 steps, but it was running, and those were the only steps it took to go from one side of the highway to stepping off the road on the other side. I was about 200 yards away, traveling towards it at about 50 miles an hour. Although I was slowing down at the same time because I could not believe what I was seeing and where I was seeing it. My dog saw it as well and was on alert watching this thing. I drove up to the spot where I saw it leave the road, and there was only forest. If it had been a human, there would have been a visual, but there was nothing there. I was not that far from it. I could tell it was a male. It did not run like a human either. It was more fluid, or maybe articulated would be a better word, and the speed was unbelievable. If there are any people in the Wren, Oregon area that think they're going crazy because they've encountered this one, well, add me to the list of crazies because I saw it too. On another note, here's something to think about. What if we could actually communicate in a most profound way, telepathically to one another? Imagine what that would change. Sabet does this. We have the ability as well, but we've been overwhelmed with other distractions and beliefs. I would be willing to bet that if you put your mind in the right place at the right time, in a meditative state, you can ask questions and receive answers from. I've done this with my grandmother and my mother. I'm certain my father and my mother-in-law have answered some of my questions as well. They are all deceased. Call it what you will. But I've conversed with beings not from this world as well, using this same technique. Doing this, talking with other beings, is much harder on my spirit than talking to my ancestors. In many cases, I have learned things that I wished I didn't know. Well, there you have it. Keeping it short. Take care. Be well. The service you do for others is legendary. Thank you. You can use my name. I've never been ashamed of it and never will. Paul R. Detheridge. Paul, I absolutely appreciate that message. Obviously, you know it resonates with thousands of people here. If you could email back more when you make a mention of you've learned things you wish you didn't know, that's what I'm all over. If you can get information like that to me, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. I've learned things already I wish I didn't know. And what do? I don't want to go through life with my head in the sand, right? I want to know everything. I want to learn every single thing I can before this ride's up. I think it'd be very helpful to a lot of people, no matter how harsh or how amazing or how terrifying it may seem. I firmly believe that all human beings deserve a crack at knowing absolutely everything we can know on the face of this planet during this lifetime. That's just me. Anything wrong behind me yet? I think I'm 75 kilometers from home. I should probably get going here pretty quick, but all right, here's another one. My initiation into the club of no return. Hello, Steve. You can use my name. I'm Lamona de Benedetto. I want to start by thanking you for being the great gatekeeper of all the people's experiences and stories. Also, my condolences to the loss of Mr. Macaroni. Can't begin to imagine the pain of losing a horse, as I've lost many pets over my 59 years. I've drank a bottle of wine tonight to give myself courage to type up my encounter, as I've been following your channel for over a year, so please forgive any errors. I will try to spell and punctuate to the best of my ability. My story in the Club of No Return happened in Southern Oregon, just outside a little town called Cave Junction. It began back in '76 on my 14th birthday. My mother was a single parent, as my father had abandoned us and moved from Washington State to the Tongan Islands to become a bush pilot. My mother at the time was working 3 jobs to feed and house us. The same child support was a mere $150 a month for 2 kids. Okay, this one sounds familiar. I may have read it, but if I have, oh well, I'm reading it again, because I'm frozen. And I gotta get going. This is gonna get read. The day of my 14th birthday, she called in sick to 2 of her jobs so that she could take me and 3 of my best friends and my little brother on an adventure for my birthday. Mom was going to take us to a swimming hole we'd never been to before. We packed a little Volkswagen Bug with picnic food, crammed everyone into the car, and headed out for a 1-hour drive into the forest. I was so excited, as this was my first official birthday party in a few years. Finally, we turned off the main paved road onto a dirt road that was long and full of potholes. My mom asked us all to get out and walk as she drove the Volkswagen over the potholes and to our destination. My friends and my brother were carrying the cake and cooler of food as we walked the road. I got really excited, as I knew that the river beach was about a half a mile ahead, so I ran ahead of everyone else. When I got there, it was a sight to behold. Long sandy beach where the river took a 40-degree turn. The other side of the river was a sheer cliff wall of about 30 feet high. Just as I was taken in the beauty of this majestic landscape, I heard and felt a bone-chilling scream/roar that was so intense it went right through my body. I looked to the top of the cliff in the direction of the sound and saw what looked like a hairy head peeping over a boulder the size of a recliner chair. I was petrified, frozen in my footsteps. In my head, I heard the words, "Leave now." Then all of a sudden, the hairy head stood up to its full height, about 10 feet. It let out another intense scream and pushed the boulder into the river, then turned and walked away. I was frozen for a few more minutes, then had the thought that it was now coming for me. I found my feet and started running back toward my mom and friends. I, of course, got to my friends first and asked if they had heard that noise. They all said yes, but were not scared of the noise like I was. They thought it was a mountain lion. I asked them to stop walking and wait for Mom to catch up, so we did. It was about 5 minutes before Mom caught up to us, and I frantically regurgitated my experience and told her I didn't want to be anywhere that a mean Bigfoot was. She hadn't heard any screams, even though my brother and friends told her they had heard it too, but none of them had seen what I'd seen. Mom refused to leave, as she had taken the time off work and wanted me to have a good birthday. I didn't mention it the rest of the day and tried to enjoy my birthday party on the river. But to this day, 45 years later, I remember that birthday with every bone-chilling memory as if I were standing on that riverbank on that very day. No doubt, that would suck. Now it's 45 years later. My husband and I are both retired. We bought an Airstream trailer so we could travel with our 4 dash hounds. Dash hounds? But sadly, I'm still too paranoid to travel into the deep forested areas and prefer a full hookup. Campgrounds. I don't know how you get past the PTSD of that experience of my childhood, but I want to, as I know I'm missing out on what short time I have left on this earth. Thank you for listening and for speaking my story into the Club of No Return. The people need to be heard, and you are our voice. God bless you and your family. Lamona De Benedetto. Lamona, thanks again for that email. I don't think I did read that one, but I hope that helped. I hope obviously the wine helped you get it out, but I hope hearing it read helped you a lot. I think if you listen to everybody else's stories that come on to here, man, how many people have been spoken to in their head? It's amazing how common that is, isn't it? I'd have a tough time getting, I don't know if I'd be able to do it. If something got into my head and basically said, use words in my head telling me to get the hell out of here now, I wonder if I would be more apt to say, go after yourself, I'm not going anywhere. I don't know. It'd probably really freak me out. I mean, picture, you guys. Picture a voice being created in your head directly telling you what to do and to get the hell out of here. Man, that would be so frickin' bizarre, wouldn't it? Anyway, I am frozen and I am beat and I gotta get home. I was gonna continue on and stay at a friend's place on the coast, but nah, I'm gonna go home. I might go fish in the morning. I got a lot to do in the shop. I got a lot to do, period. Got a lot to do. So, I'll be back with more shares. There's a lot of people out there I need to get in touch with, email back to. Just this past couple weeks has been chaos. I don't know why, it just has. But anyway, I'm going home. I'm going to be back tomorrow on the river, and I'm going to share more.